Happy New Year's, everybody. Yeah, I know it's a little late. It's technically not New Year's Day anymore, but still, happy 2025. This year I'm going to be a lot more consistent with posting, a lot better with, just making a lot of improvements that were needed. But besides the point, I just want to get right into this. We have a very busy video for weather to talk about, and I just want to start off by preferencing like just all the active warnings and watches because there's a lot to unpack in this video. So I just want to start off. We have a relatively big area of a winter weather advisory and winter storm warning, but the warning is only for mainly the ridges. We do have a large area of winter weather advisories. That is from a small system that's gonna come down through and work its way through and it could drop a local 2 to 4 inches across most of the eastern portion of the United States. Then we have this large area for like a winter storm watch. That is for a much bigger system that we're going to see here within the next couple of days after this little clipper. So through the weekend into Monday night, we're really going to see a possible winter storm with significant ice accumulations, significant winter snow accumulation, primarily for parts of middle of the southern PA, Maryland, West Virginia areas. There could see some significant snow accumulation along with Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. And then we even could see some severe weather down in the deep south with this storm. So I'm gonna hop right into this. Let's start zooming it. Let's zoom in on the locations, get the information needed. Let's get right into this. All right, so to start off here, we're going to take a look at this clipper system, or it's not really even a clipper system. It's more of just like a very compact area of snow that's just going to briefly slide through and could bring, like I said, a widespread 2 to 4 inches to some flatter areas across like across to the northeast, and then obviously to the ridges that with that amplified mountain snow. We could see 4 to 8 isolated, of course, and then we also have that lake effect, which could bring totals even further up, combined with everything afterwards. So if we go ahead and show this ahead here, you can kind of see it tries to become something stronger as it moves like down, as we're moving down into the Ohio Valley towards the mid Atlantic in the northeast. It links up with some moisture and energy, as we have warmer temperatures all throughout here. We have like Arctic cold air centered over the northeastern, or at least over part of the northern to eastern tier of the United States, and that also why there's an ice risk for that next big storm, which I'll speak about here in just a sec. We can kind of see there's already a little bit of mixing. If you can see that pink little dot right there on the right on the system on the tail end where this moisture meets up with the snow, it does try to become amplified, and that's why it could drop a lot of snow in some areas, like I said, local 2 to 4, and you can see it fans out. But as it reaches that mountainous ranges in the mountains, the rigid areas, and still with that moisture, that warmer, not extremely warm, but like warmer area with that little bit of moisture that tries to hang on to make it something stronger. It does intensify it to an extent, which will bring in a good amount of snow overnight Thursday night into Friday morning, and you can see it'll quickly move through. It'll quickly blast through here. You can see big chunk of big chunk right here, snow moving in. This is 7 a.m. This is our best estimate. You can see heavy, could be heavy, some heavier bands of snow following in Ohio, beginning to enter PA. And then you can see once it enters PA, you can see you have those really thick, heavier bands just kind of not sitting over the region, but definitely moving through the region. And then that will quickly slide out. And as it does, you can kind of see the areas that would see a little bit more snow, like that 2 to 4 range, maybe higher locally, is where we have all this lake effect band just coming through, just kind of just shooting down snow. And you can see, I mean, just around around Lake Erie, there's a lot of heavy, like a lot of snow, and the mountainous regions are still dealing with a lot of like snow still falling. But then we have these thick, heavier bands that's going to enter into like Ohio, into western Pennsylvania, which is why we could see local areas of higher snow depending on where these bands like travel. where these bands go and where they sit over, and then as this system moves out, you can already see the next system I'm talking about way over here. You can see where's that there's that cold air and then that mixing and then that warmer air. It's very definitive with this storm. This Clipper is a little bit harder to piece together as it's a lot smaller in size. But enough said with this storm. Let's get to the big daddy over there. So let's get right into that. Jumping right into it, you can already tell it's a big system here. Let me actually pull this back before it even forms here. So you can see here's the little system right up here. This is what's going to bring that snow over to the eastern central tier of the United States, like I was talking about. And I am going to switch to a different model here, just a different model here in just a sec. But you can see when it really begins to spark up here, it really links up really well. You can see it almost instantly. We have this really cold air, or we have the cold, like I said. So we have the cold freezing line set up here. We have that warm air, the warmer air down here, and then we have the cold Arctic air up here, which is going to keep everything above a certain line. Obviously, where that freezing line is, like where that definitive freezing line is, we won't know until like it forms. Obviously, it hasn't formed just yet, but you can see where the sleet and icing is. That's where the freezing line is most likely going to be, and it's going to be a pretty big freezing area. I mean, we're talking anywhere from here down to here could be the freezing area, so it's going to be a big area. But nonetheless, we are going to see it form, and you can kind of see that better. The storm's really going to kick in gear once we start getting a lot of moisture being pulled up from the Gulf, the warmer temperatures, and we're like it would like we're where we have that severe weather threat. Once this thing begins to move off this way, there's that severe weather threat, which I will speak about here also in a few minutes. But you can see when that moisture pulls up into the storm, you can see that moisture in that freezing line and where the snow is going to like kind of fall in on the system really comes together, and then you can see it just becomes more definite and definite as we move on. You can see we have that here's the rain, the cold rain, should I say? Then we have that a lot of icing and freezing rain area with the storm, and then here's the top side with just that pure cold air just sitting over the storm, which is going to bring those snow totals and accumulations to parts of Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana, Ohio, and then eventually towards Mid Atlantic and Northeast. However, the where we're going to see the biggest snowfall is a little bit uncertain because you can see how big this icing area is. If that warmer air gets pulled up earlier or later, like if it gets pulled up further here, that could allow for that some of that colder air to push in and maybe make some of this more snow, or or make this all rain. That's out ahead of it. It's just is this gonna keep consistent? We're also gonna take a look at temperature graphs and all that in here in just a second. So this is a short term high resolution of the beginning of it here. So let me move to a longer range model so we can see what it's really going to look like in the future. So starting off, this is the European model here. You can already tell this is a little bit of a lower resolution model. This is because it's meant for storms that are 10 days out or a little bit longer, or a little bit past that 10-point range. Obviously, that's when we go to the GFS, which is better for that long term stuff. So I'd say we call this pretty much middle range, but you can already tell we have a lot of high pressure that sits way up here, so it's going to keep this storm pretty like down from. It's going to keep it like down, so it's not so it can't ride like it can't go like form here and then go straight up like that. This high pressure is gonna keep it like pushed down, and pretty much it's gonna keep it at a level. And when I run this ahead here, you can see it wants to rise up. You can kind of see how the ice or in that sleet and stuff begins to rise up, but then eventually we get that stopping point with that high pressure, just sitting there, and you can see that's when it stalls kind of, and it really kicks. And then what really kind of kickstarts it is a big plunge of cold air kind of shoots down into the back, which mixes with this warm air that sits on the underside of it. And once that happens, it's just like gasoline on a fire. It's gonna ignite like that, and once that ignites, that high pressure is just gonna quickly shoot down in, so it can't really stall out anywhere. And once that happens, we have a big winter storm system that could be dropping feet of snow out ahead of where that really Arctic cold sector is, like right out here. wherever that is, wherever that really cold it is, and where it keeps it like in this heavy snow form, and like where it keeps it in the heavy snow form, that's where you're going to see good amounts of snow. But obviously, the keening and glaring problem is a large swath of just ice and just ice. This is what's that's what I mean. That's what one of the main problems is with this storm is there's going to be big ice. There could be big ice accumulations with this, with and power outages and everything included with that. And we also have that threat for severe weather down here in the south, primarily right over here down here in the south, where the storm really is going to get moving. But you can see the progression of it once we see that cold air shoot down in and get on the backside of this low pressure, it just lights up immediately. I mean, you can just see how quickly it begins to move off this way. I mean, and once that happens, you can see we have a significant possible snowstorm here for parts of Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, PA, New York, the mountainous regions, West Virginia, and I'll show all the eastern coast here in just a second. But I did want to point out one area is that you can note if you notice here, if if we start off looking at like central Missouri, it sits in this kind of like it sits in like a limbo state. We have this lot of freezing rain coming down. We have cold air here. We have warm air here, and it's creating all the ice, and you can kind of see here. But that cold air on the backside continues to plunge in, and with that high pressure, not allowing anything to kind of kick back up or anything like that, we could see a transition of like freezing rain over to snow, which could limit a lot of totals in some areas. You can kind of see here, parts of like Indiana and Illinois right here. They start off as snow, but it switches back over to it switches over to freezing rain, and then we have a very definitive line, like right along here. There's that line I was trying to like speak about earlier with that other clipper system. This is just it's basically that. Just this is way more amplified with this big low pressure system down here, and with that huge amount of Arctic air and high pressure, just allowing that cold air to simmer and just sit over an area for a large portion of time. So let me move over to the eastern coast now, so we can really get an idea of what that's going to look like for people over in those parts. So this is the Ohio Valley region here, and you can see already. You can already see this is after the storm forms and it begins to move off in this direction. Again, it can't really go up that much, is because we have this high pressure that's sitting over here, which is allowing this storm to kind of just to beeline right across here, kind of just like beeline right across, kind of just like this, and and then that Arctic air. We have a ton of cold air right over the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley region, and we have that warmer air pushing up for Tennessee, North Carolina. We have that really warmer air just kind of simmering there, which is where there's this big ice chance, this big idea for a big ice storm to kind of happen. However, another idea is that what's also stopping a lot of like this. You see how this is like big piled up, and then when I run this ahead, it kind of like the snow bands really kind of just thin out, and it kind of sits to this one big thin band. What's stopping it from blowing up like this is again this high pressure that's sitting there. The high pressure is preventing anything from rising up in case like we have it form low pressure down here and it shoots up that way and it brings a ton of snow here. That's not going to happen because of this high pressure that's sitting over the area. It's the low pressure is just going to move in a certain way, and it just happens. It's just going to beeline straight to the right, and again, wherever that extremely cold Arctic air sits, wherever that cold Arctic air is sitting, is where there's going to be like just pure heavy snow, because the freezing line and the heavy snow line, it's gonna be not drastic, but it's gonna be you're gonna notice it if you're living in those regions. And if I run this ahead, you can tell on the model where that it's drastic. You can tell we have that very definitive freezing line right around this region is my best estimate, and everywhere else. So wherever else there's that cold Arctic air, just going to be heavy snowfall. There's heavy snowfall in the north on the kind of front side of it. And then we have that, and then wherever the warm sector is, we're going to see a ton of freezing rain and sleet and stuff, bad stuff that could cause power outages, damages, trees down, power lines down, just stuff that we wouldn't particularly want to see. But for snow lovers, if you're on this cold Arctic side, especially for like people that is like in like middle to southern like Ohio, people in like the ridges, southern, south central, central PA, southern central PA, parts of West Virginia, Maryland, DC, maybe not DC, but northern DC, Baltimore. You guys can see some good snow out of this because you can see when it moves into these regions, we have this cold air that's just slamming this, which is it almost like slows it down. But the one idea with this is it begins to weaken out. You can kind of tell it's strong over here. It's a strong system. But as it gets closer, it weakens out. However, that's not going to stop the storm from dropping anywhere. You can see a really heavy snow right here, and as that band kind of pushes up this way, because there's no this because remember there's a high pressure sitting back behind it. There's no high pressure out in front of it over here, so it's just gonna begin to lift up that way. Once it gets past that high pressure, it's kind of like a weighted blanket. It's laying down. Once it gets lifted, it's gonna try to shoot up. And I mean, we could see areas get locally 6 to 8 inches across parts of a lot of the area that's in that like just that cold Arctic section. I mean, even on this backside with that snow still falling, even with that thinned out snow still falling, we could see local areas of 12 to 20, 12, 6 to 12 over here, like where that initially kind of ramps up and gets like I said, gasoline on fire. Where it ramps up over there, we could see feet of snow in local areas back there. But once it gets over here, towards like the eastern coast, where like there's that heavy snow from the ridges, and then we have that Arctic air sitting over it. I mean, we could see a mix of heavy snow and ice in some areas. But I think a good estimate, as of what today's model runs have been showing, this is less than 100 hours out. So, but like I've been saying, there's a good chance that we see a local area right over here of 6 to 8 inches, and then the areas that could see a good foot or more is going to be right along that kind of freezing line, wherever that freezing line is. Like if it's a little bit further up to north or a little bit further south, and wherever that heavy snowfall is, you guys are going to see a good shot of snow there. I'm going to show snow totals in a second. You can see once that moves out, though, a lingering effect is that there's a lot of like moderate to heavy snowfall on the backside, which also could add additional snowfall. And then we have that lake effect snow that sits over parts of the Great Lake regions after this. We have a lot of lake effect snow that is just going to be shoveling snow down this way. So again, there's a lot of good chances for some significant snowfall. And then after that we begin to kind of transition back, and we kind of simmer down for a little bit. We still could see some northeast, middle east, like Great Lake clipper systems, which could drop a couple inches to some people. But then we get kind of this, which is 276 hours out. This is an early look, but this would suggest something pretty big. This is another signal. What I say, this would suggest something pretty big for a lot of middle to northern Ohio, the Greater Lakes. And again, there's no high pressure, so it's not going to keep it on a straight line like we saw with the other one. This one's just going to come straight up. Now, again, this one's very early out, but if it comes further this way, over here could see more snow. If it comes further that way, it's just I thought like I should mention it, and then that will quickly move out, and then we get another system with more high pressure that sets in. So again, main concern is going to be this storm. The main concerns with the storm is obviously going to be the glaring ice issue with a possible ice storm that we could see out of this because of how drastic that cold air and warm air is in that mix. That's going to be the glaring issue with this storm. But to the lucky people that like snow, if you're caught on the cold side, the extreme cold side of this, and anywhere really out front that's really cold and it's not going to mix, you guys could see some heavy snow from it. So I'm gonna switch over to a temperature plot and then snow plots, and yeah, we'll be done for today. So, let me switch over to that. All right, so I'm gonna start off with temperature plot just to show here where the best chance for that freezing line is gonna be. You can already see way down here. This is central over the Ohio Valley because that's where I really want to talk about like that turnover from that freezing area, that big chance for ice like I was talking about. But you can kind of see it's pretty almost drastic. You can see there's a lot of temperatures that's right in the 30s, 32, 30, like 31, 32 range, you would think that would become snow, but if you go a little bit further north, you can see these extremely cold, almost single digit areas. You see 12, 16 degrees, and that really big, and then here's that Arctic air that's bubbling up there, which will eventually shoot down once this thing erupts. And once a little bit of this leaks down, it's just gonna erupt basically, and you can kind of see that happen there. There's that cold air on the back side, and then here's this would be it here in full motion, and you can see there's a lot of above freezing temperatures right in this region, like 30, 31, 20, 28. Like, it's not cold enough to be like snowing, like heavy snowfall yet, but I mean, it's gonna, but there still could be. If you just go a little bit further north, not even like 100 miles north, you can see these 20s, 19s. That's where you're gonna see some snowfall. I mean, once this goes towards the east coast too, and there's that really cold air way over here behind it. Again, that Arctic air is just sitting over here. It's kind of just it's like fuel basically for people that like are out ahead in the Arctic region. People that are out ahead of that Arctic region of snow, it's just gonna be like it's gonna ignite for you quick. But I mean, it's and then down here, like where it's in hot, like if you're in the warm sector, but where there's also that Arctic air shooting in, where it's gonna start mixing from like rain to snow, and then like over to snow eventually. Like down here, especially in like DC, Baltimore, you're more the freezing side, so you're gonna see a little bit more snow, more snowfall. But and then you can see DC area, it's above freezing in a lot of areas, so it could just be ice. Ice, excuse me. It could just be ice all throughout there, or we could see snow try to leak in on the back side. And then another detail I wanted to show out was you can see this right along the mountain ridge right here in West Virginia, extending down into like Tennessee and stuff like that. There's this very thin area of above freezing temperatures. That's all going to be ice, or not ice, but like it's going to be it'll this will all be rain up until about here. Like right around here, we're gonna see ice and then a turnover, just a heavy snow. And then this will eventually all move out, and then you can see that Arctic air takes over. But then finally we warm back up to a widespread 31, 32 degree area of just snow and stuff, and that's where we could see a potential for another ice storm with that. And then like I showed you on the long term, like kind of radar look, there'd be that heavy snow up here where it's freezing, and then we could see a nice little area of ice, way out ahead. But obviously, that's extremely long time out. So, yeah, let me switch over to snow totals. Show you guys the contrast differences, and yeah, we'll be done for today. So let me switch over to that. Okay, so this is the European for the snow totals with 10-to-1 ratio, and you can see here we have a good dermatistic of what's going to happen throughout, like honestly I'd say right around here, about 8 to 12 inches locally. But once like we start getting towards like the Mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley regions, like honestly I'd say right throughout here, things get a little dicey because it depends where that freezing is. You can see where the ridges are here with that amplified snow. It's gonna be a lot of snow, lot of heavy snow. But you can see right here through Maryland and like DC, there's is locally 8 to 10. And if we go even a little bit further up, if we come up here towards the Greater Lakes, like central to northern Ohio, central to northern PA, you guys could get again a local 6 to 8 inches, depending on where it goes and like where that if that Arctic air really kind of stays extremely cold over here, which it should and it's going to. But if this thing takes a different track, like if it wobbles a little, if it kind of lingers a little bit up further, where like if the freezing line's here, then a lot more up here could see snow. Or like if it, it's there's still a little bit of time for some wiggle room here. If we use the Kuchera snowfall maps, now I like I like the Kuchera snowfall maps for the ridges, like for the lake effect and ridges part, but I do not agree with this area over here getting over 2 feet of snow because mind you, when the storm kicked off, we saw a ton of freezing rain over there. And then I like this area right through, like right, honestly, like right through here. I like this area, seeing a general local of a foot or more. I like that. And then, but again, over here, things get dicey because, I mean, again, we have that Arctic air, but we also have that, like, that freezing line trying to push up in. And that's going to hinder a lot of snow totals. Like I said, down here in DC and Baltimore and stuff like that, this is only showing 9 to 10 inches, which could very well be possible. This could be the exact playout. Same thing up here for parts of central to southern PA, central to southern Ohio, and Indiana, and even Indiana and Illinois. But this is also preferencing off of that, what the Europeans said, that extremely heavy snow and that extremely cold air is going to stay like right here. If that happened, or like it's going to stay like right here where that extremely cold air and extremely heavy and cold air snow is. If that happens, then yes, these amounts of snow over here could be possible. Could be very possible. But again, if it you can see also the drastic cutoff. You can see where that freezing rain is, but you can also see where that back end snow mixes in. Because you can see general 3 to 4 inches down there where that back end snow cuts in after that freezing rain moves along. But areas that could see just pure snow. I mean, we could see like for instance areas here that could see pure snow, which is currently forecasted that could see pure snow. We could see these totals rise a little bit or fall a little bit depending on how the rest of today the Clipper system is and all that and all that really. But yeah, so that's really all I have. And then this is every storm combined. This is just that main system, of course, after everything. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. Sorry about the time being messed up. I just noticed that. But yeah, like I said, this is Tuesday, January 7th. Final snow totals could be possible for much of the region. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. And yeah, if you like this type of content, let me know. And also let me know in the comments if there's anything I could work on, like that could be better. Work on that, like anything that could be better that I could work on. Otherwise, I will see everybody in the next forecast. Goodbye.